gonna do a quick video lesson for y'all. Hopefully you're having a good trading week. This past week has been really great. A lot of good setups setting up in the market. Really gonna go over a couple of the same setups I've been talking about the past couple of weeks. What's been working, what's been not working. Play of the week has been HIMS, by far. Again, I was always mentioned, keep a database of stocks that you are trying to master within that pattern. Again, sometimes the patterns are not going to work. That's just the way a system is. Sometimes you have to understand that just because the pattern doesn't work doesn't mean that it's not going to work in the long run. You know, you always want to have a positive expectancy within any trading system. But this is really much in a nutshell what I've been trying to show you. HIMS has been a leader of the past. I always mention look left, look at the long-term chart. Really since last year, this has been running. They produce weight loss along with other hair loss and other health matters. And that's good. You want a story, and whenever you have a stock, always put things in context. You want a reason for it to go up. Don't just buy randomly. And I think that's why many people just lose money. They just buy randomly. You want a solid foundation. You want a reason for something to go up. And it's like fuel, like rocket fuel, you know. But pretty much of late, this has been probably the best setup so far besides PLTR. But absolutely gorgeous. You know, nice high day break right there, and as I mentioned, sideways, and break there. Same to there and sideways. I did get long at $60. I sold in the 70s quite a bit. I didn't like how it was fading into the close yesterday. Again, within all these setups, the best time to buy it is whenever it's breaking the ranges. You know, you want to buy it immediately. Sometimes you want to wait for confirmation. Sometimes I wait for confirmation, like the first 5-minute candle. But it just works best if you buy it right away. Like that setup right there. Ideally, it was best to buy it last Thursday. Out of this day here, when was it? Well, this range day here, out of $47. 48. You know, same deal. Just open range and low day will be the stop. And as I mentioned, within all of these, you can always get long in a dip as long as it's not above the average true range. That's what I focus on. But as I hit price alerts over 60, I got at 61. It had a nice dip right into, I believe, I'm not gonna be able to view it perhaps. I like the 10-minute. Everyone has their own different ranges of doing it. But right here I got long and the nice dip at 61. And it went higher. And again, it had news, of course. And again, put things into context, okay? I didn't know this was gonna have I didn't think this was gonna have a nice, you know, 60 to 72 in a day. That's a good percentage move, of course. And again, the short interest on this is extremely high. Now, that's one thing I always keep track of in any stock. You know, market cap determines how big of a play it can be potentially, and along with the float and news and short interest, as you can see here, is roughly 33%. So that's another reason why buying pressure, you know. So many people think this company is not worth it in the end, but again, your goal is just to trade the momentum. Again, as I always mention, most of these companies in quotation marks will not make it in the end. Your job as a trader is just to trade the momentum. And whenever you see a setup, you trade it. And we're setting up in the exact same way. You know, higher lows, and you just wait for the break. You just wait. We're setting up. That's why I'm making this video now. Look how beautifully it held the 10-day. Beautifully. And we're surfing. So ideally, tomorrow, if this does break over $70, who says this can't go plus 75? Who says it can't? But if not, more sideways the better. I mean, if it does, I would prefer this to base until next week. You know, have a couple more red days like you see here, then range break. Because the better this consolidates, the more potential it has to go another leg higher. But I'm making this on a Thursday because you should know that a Friday is a special day in the market. Friday is it's just a special day in the market, to say. You have a lot of higher odds of setups going on a Friday because, of course, the weekend the market's closed. So you have short sellers who don't want to hold a position over the weekend rather, so they want to buy to cover, thus increasing the stock price. So that's why I'm making this video now, to show that if you watch just tomorrow, if this does go, then I want you to understand that it's not rocket science, it just takes time. But I love how it's surfing the moving averages. Yeah, over 70 on this one for sure. But again, always know why this went up, okay? Had news, momentum leader, same things over and over again as I'm telling you about, okay? Just like on PLTR did have its little end of the show. Congrats to those who did short this. As I mentioned, I didn't want to get long this. I mentioned on the Sunday scan, because the longer you really don't want to chase this up here. It gets toppy in this area right here. You know, the best time to buy it is there or there, but it's just the higher this goes, the risk reward shifts. And it had some news that caused the gap down, and now we're just in this mode. Likely it's going to base and fade down, even downwards. But we'll see what happens in that one. But I really want to show you one setup, STAA. This is the exact same scenario, open range highs, and this is a prime example that sometimes within your trading system, it's not going to work. And this is a primary example. You know, range break, clear as day at $4. Ideally, the best entry would have been even lower at $3.50. You know, out of this range break there. But sometimes I like waiting for confirmation. And they had news today regarding, well, there was no news, no news, but the news that led this to run up this past week was AI. AI has been a hot theme trend lately. So it had a nice range break. And again, long-term chart, recent IPO, I believe. So it's even better. You use a fresh, clean slate of a chart. And I like the chart. I got long at $4. And again, my system, I pretty much with this, again, this is why it differs from the larger caps versus these small caps in a way. Because HIMS, you know, you're not going to have a much, I guess, of a high volatile move compared to STAI. You know how it went from 4 to 520 and went back down. And it's just very rare because the flow and all that. And STAI, I'm working on it. Sorry about that. I'm working on it. You know, I got long at 4, and I should have locked some in at 520, but I didn't. You know, we had a nice run here out of the gate. I'm gonna go to 10-minute chart here. We had a nice, again, I got long in this range when it pulled back here, and we had a nice gain. And I gave it time. Hindsight, yeah, you always want to lock in profit. That's something I want to tell you. Okay, it's okay to lock in profits, and I've been really struggling with that lately. Again, transparency is key. Hindsight, I should have locked it in whenever we had this massive reclaim. But I didn't. I pretty much held to break even, and I pretty much held to 420. Because whenever you see this fading action to the close, that's really not a sign of strength. You want this to base, then go another leg higher, like we saw on which one? On HIMS. Well, no, HIMS is actually a scenario fade. I'm trying to think of an example that it based and went higher. Well, yesterday we had a nice runner. Let me show you. GTAI, for instance. Beautiful runner, AI, hot theme. This one's still on radar for tomorrow. I think this can go, if this does base and have a nice range over 9. But this is a good example. You want a stock that can base and go in the after hours, you know? And that's really the best way I trade these momentum leaders, these small caps, is I like seeing them base. And then in the afternoon, make the jump to potentially trade it. In STI, I was hoping for that same scenario. I was hoping, again, you never want to hope because hope's not a strategy, but I was hoping that it would base, you know, and have another reclaim towards that. But it didn't. We faded, and I recognized it, and I took the small gain. Whoop-de-doo. But it's just, I'm not upset because the setup was there, AI sector, and I took the trade. And that's one thing I want to tell you, that whatever your system is, whatever you're trading, just trade it. Whenever you see the setup emerge, just trade it. Don't think, just do. And within your trading system, you have set rules, okay? Again, set rules is what keeps you in the game. Don't just do randomly. And I understand you see a lot of things moving, like you see a lot of things on big percent gainers, but just because they're on scan, you know, doesn't mean that you have to trade it, okay? You gotta find something within all these that makes sense to you in a sense. And these are the big percent gainers and the small caps. but it's fine what works best for you. Like Reborn Coffee, 5-star setup, 5-star. I made a video on it yesterday. I may add it at the very end, but I nailed this. I didn't get long. I should have, but I called it yesterday. I made a video lesson yesterday. I'm not sure if I'll probably post that clip in the middle of this, perhaps. But I saw this exact same pattern. You know, if it was going to go over 6, you get long, and it had a nice, beautiful run. Again, this as well, put into overall context, the short interest on this one is high as well. I believe it's roughly, let me see here, well, 70% short float. But it's the exact same pattern as, again, look left, see the right, exact same pattern as you can see here, the exact same pattern, and that's what I saw with Reborn, and that's why it was on my price alerts. I didn't get long, unfortunately, but this just goes to show you that no matter how, now again, you really don't want to buy stock on a third day, but if the pattern is there, you trade it, and the best time to buy it would be here, of course, off the 10-day, and there, but hindsight's 2020, but just because a stock is up 3 days in a row does not mean it can't go higher, okay? Don't get that confusion. These things could go a lot higher than you think. But this one's going to be on watch for tomorrow. For sure, ADR is roughly 32%, really high volatile stock. They had news of some new locations, I believe, within... Yeah, they had news today. They've been having a lot of news this week, so it's a story stock, you know? Again, most of these will fail in the long run. Your job is just to trade the momentum. But over $8, if this does base and go over $8, and that's going to be a potential signal. But I mean, you really don't want to, even $7.50, but you really don't want to chase this up. Tomorrow will be day 4 of this. The entry day was today, to say, open range highs was today the first really ideal entry to get long. But if it does go over $8, then who says this can't go higher? Again, tomorrow is a Friday, so who says it cannot? But congrats to anyone who did get long this one. Why can't I do this? So here we go. Yeah, but that's that one. Other than that, I'm just watching some other stuff on my backlist. ASTS is still in a range over 33. Let me see here. Redbin, Tuya, nice one. STA went over. Lottery, it's going after hours. What's the news on this? What's the news? Shareholder meeting, positive result. Okay, wow, there is some news on this after hours, as you can see here. Yeah, almost $2. Wow. So this one's gonna be on watch. If it does, I'm gonna move this up here. It already went over 220. That's if this does have a daily break on tomorrow for a Friday, then who says this can't go higher? Again, the ADR is 40%, high volatile stock. So that, wow, some news to get this going. You know, that's good. But yeah, okay, that one's top watch for sure. I like how it's holding. I like how it's basing. Very choppy stock though, but if it gaps up towards this area, then for sure. The QBTS quantum names, I love how it's coming out of a range here. It's been in a nice range the past couple of weeks lately, and as I mentioned, sometimes these quantum names or sector leaders, they're gonna have some type of bounce of some sort. It's just the way they move. Hopefully we get something in the quantum sector to have that bounce. Most often than not, you know, we have a bounce and they all fade. But I like this range break today. But yeah, hopefully higher the better on this one. And if it does go higher, it's going to set up some numerous times. It's not just going to go straight up. You know, most of the time, again, they go up, pull back, then they go again, pull back, and they go again. So hopefully it sets up numerous times on its run. KDLY, another one I'm watching for a potential liquidity trap. Different type of setup. Ranges for sure on this one. I love how it's basing. Look at this. It wants to go. And tomorrow's going to be a top watch for sure. Tomorrow's a Friday. So if it does break over this range, and that's going to be a potential long. PRPH as well, I'm watching very low price. Well, never mind. The pattern's dead. Never mind on that one. APLD continuation over 1050. That's the plan on that one. ASCS that we went over. Archer, no. Earnings, yeah. Earnings for sure over this one. Over 1280 potentially. But the volume just so thin. You want volume, and we'll see. If it does break it, then yes. But other than that, it's really not that much. I'm just really watching I'm really watching SMCI as well. Is setting up potentially over $62. I love how it's basing. We'll see on that one. But I'm really watching KDLY and lottery. KDLY, lottery, and yeah, we'll just see what happens. Really lottery. I didn't know they had the news after hours. That's gonna be really good signal. But we'll see. But again, the main focus of this video lesson is just understand that sometimes, like HIMS, sometimes this pattern works really well. You know, again, this is really the point I'm going to show you here. You know, sometimes you have a run up. You know, you have a run up, sideways, and a range break. That's really what I'm trying to show you. Okay, and sometimes you take the trade regardless of how it turns out, like I did today. I had a range break, got long. The odds say most likely this will continue, but it faded. So what? You learn, go on. And as long as if you lock in some gains, yes, that's a plan. But if you lose some money, make sure it's within your risk threshold. Okay, that's very important. But yeah, that's really all I want to go over. Lottery for sure, top watch tomorrow. Along with, which one did I say? Reborn, I'm watching for a continuation. KODY, I already told you. But yeah, that's pretty much all I want to go over. Okay, but I'll make a video lesson this week, going over the weekly stocks if anything else happened. Other than that, stay safe.